I'm excited to jump into today's content. We are in a series that we've been going through. We're looking at the life of David. We've called it House of David. And this series matters because David matters. He's a really important factor and figure in the Old Testament. And the reason he matters is because he's the greatest king of Israel. He's the greatest king of Israel. And the entire nation is very excited about King David because he is redeeming the kingship. As we've looked at, King Saul kind of ruins it for everybody. He's an ego king. He's focused on his inadequacies. And so God anoints a king who is a man after his own heart. And if you've missed any of these messages, I want to encourage you, go online, check them out. You can go to our app. You can get these messages and this content, and it will encourage you. But today we're coming to one of the most significant moments in David's life, probably his most famous moment. It's when he takes on a giant named Goliath, right? Everybody knows the story of David and Goliath. Even if you're new to church, you've probably heard this story, like referred to. It's referred to all kinds of ways in pop culture. It's used in sports. It's used in movies. It's used in business. Anytime someone overcomes impossible odds, we say it's a David versus Goliath. Like sometimes you'll hear a broadcaster say, well, Jim, looks like we've got a real David and Goliath on our hands. The barely over 500 Royals are taking on the league-leading Detroit Tigers. Facts. I just deliver the mail. But anytime you've got some type of overcoming odds, people will call it a David and a Goliath. And I just want to talk just a little bit to us before we jump into the content. How many of you know that life is very good at throwing overcoming odds our way? How many know, it's just a matter of time before you're gonna have something that is overwhelming. It's just a matter of time before you face something that seems daunting, seems like unovercomable. There's gonna be a moment where you find yourself and you're gonna look at your resources and you're gonna find that you don't have enough to solve this problem. Doesn't matter how much money you have, how much talent you have, how much skill you have. Sometimes you're just outmatched. And that's really what this story is about. That's what this story is about. It's not about a slingshot is better than a sword. It's not about the small guy, beats the big guy. It's not about underdog versus the bully. That's really not what it's about. It's about the right place to put your confidence when you're facing an overwhelming situation. And so I want to talk to you about being confident in God no matter what. If you're taking notes, I want you to write that down. Confident in God no matter what. No matter what the doctor report might say. No matter what the bank account might say. No matter what your kids might be saying. You're confident in God no matter what. And that's really what this passage is about. 1 Samuel chapter 17. If you have your Bibles, I want to comb through this. And here's what I want to do. Anytime you approach a story that you've heard a million times, it's important for you just to check all of your preconceived ideas. Just check them at the gate before you enter into this topic, because I really want us to maybe allow this to speak to us in a fresh way. How to have confidence in God no matter what. The context for this story is the Philistines have attacked they're getting ready to attack the Israelites. They've gathered and the armies are opposing each other. And a lot of times when we think about war today, we think about nations fighting each other and there's gonna be some damage. But in that day, it wasn't like, oh, you won, we lost, that was tough. It was like, you won, we lost, we became your slaves. And you probably killed a lot of us just because you wanted to wipe us out. So the stakes are very high. If Israel loses, it means slavery and captivity So where are the people going to put their hope? And this is where we look at 1 Samuel chapter 17. I'm so excited to jump into this. I think God's going to encourage us all through it. 1 Samuel chapter 17, if you are ready to jump in, say I am. All right, here we go. Verse 2, Saul and the Israelites assembled and camped in the valley of Elah and drew up their battle line to meet the Philistines. And the Philistines occupied one hill and the Israelites another, with the valley between them. A champion named Goliath, who was from Gath, came out of the Philistine camp, and his height was 6 cubits and a span. Okay, so, all right, here we got this guy. His name's Goliath. We all know this is a big guy. Well, how big was Goliath? You know, there's a lot of speculation. So here's what I'd like to do. I'd actually like to do a little demonstration for us today of how big Goliath was. And before, I'm going to actually have my son Titus come up first. Titus, come on up. Titus is going to be David. Okay, look at this is because we got 3 characters in this story. We got David, who has been anointed king. All right, he's been anointed king. And Titus is probably about the age that David was. All right, so David, we're going to put you over here. And then we need King Saul, who is head and shoulders above everybody else. And so that's going to be Bert. Come on, Bert, come on up here. Bert. Do you have your mic? Yeah. Okay. So now Bert is probably the height of King Saul, head and shoulders above everybody else, like literally. No, truly. Today he's not. But back in that day, he would have been. Average Israeli man was probably 5'3", 5'4". Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If only, right? If only. We would have dominated. Straight to the NBA. Okay, so we got David. And then we've got King Saul, and now we need Goliath. And we have my friend Sam, who's going to play the role of Goliath. Okay, so Sam, come on the stage here. Let us just admire you. Sam, hey buddy, thank you. Sam, would you mind telling everybody how tall you are?
I'm 7'3".
7'3". Sam is officially the largest person I've ever seen in my life. Like truly, the largest person I've ever seen in my life. Now, here's what's cool about this. Like literally, what we have on the stage is a close reenactment of how it actually probably was. Most scholars will look at the oldest manuscripts of the Old Testament, and they'll find that Goliath was around 6'9", 7 foot tall. So Sam's technically taller than Goliath according to the oldest manuscripts. And of course we have Bert, who is head and shoulders above everybody else. I mean, David ain't nothing. And then we've got King David, the young warrior, all right? Yes, and mom is very happy about King David. All right. So I want us to read the text, and we're going to kind of like role play a little bit, and we're going to go through this so you can kind of feel it. Put yourself in the Old Testament a little bit, all right? So here we go. So Goliath stood out and shouted to the ranks of Israel, "Why do you come out and line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine, and are you not the servants of Saul? Choose a man and have him come down to me. If he is able to fight and kill me, we will become your subjects. But if I overcome him and kill him, you will become our subjects and serve us." Then the Philistine said, "This day I defy the armies of Israel. Give me a man and let us fight each other." Sam, why don't you ask him, "Y'all want some of this?" Come on, just ask him.
Y'all want some of this?
See? I think the answer for me is a resounding no. No, thank you. Goliath is confident. He's confident. And he's confident because of who he is, what he's done, and what he has. And so one of the reasons, if you remember back to the beginning of our story, one of the reasons Israel wanted a king was for moments like this. Like, we want a king who can go fight our battles. If you remember, that's one of the reasons. They want to be like everybody else so that they can have a king to go fight their battles. But watch this. On hearing the Philistines' words, Saul and all the Israelites were dismayed and terrified. That was embarrassing. So King Saul, this big king who's taller than everybody else, is afraid of that big mamma jamma over there. And for 40 days, verse 16 says, the Philistines came forward in every morning and evening and took his stand. So Goliath comes out day after day after day, just intimidating, taunting, just discouraging. And let me just pause for a moment and just say, this is exactly how the enemy works. He is relentless. The enemy in our lives never gets tired, and he just comes to intimidate. Do you see that in this point in the story, Goliath has not even done anything physically, but what he has done from an intimidation standpoint, emotionally and verbally, is significant. And this is how the enemy likes to work. He just wants to chip away at your confidence, chip away at your hope, chip away at your joy. One comment after another. And this is what the enemy does. And so this is what Goliath does. You skip down to verse 24. When the Israelites saw them, and they all fled from him in great fear until Jesse sends his son David to check on his older brothers who are at the battle line. So there's a whole army over here with King Saul, and David comes up, and David hears what's going on, and he sees Goliath, and watch what David says. Verse 26. David asked the men standing near him, what will be done for the man who kills the Philistine and removes this disgrace from Israel? Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? So Titus, you look at him. Come over here. You look at him and say, this dude ain't nothing compared to God.
This dude isn't even nothing compared to God.
Yeah. That's right. So skip to verse 32. David said to Saul, let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him. And Saul replied, you are not able to go out against this Philistine and fight him. You're only a young man, and he's been a warrior from his youth. Say, there, little lad.
There, little lad.
There. But David said to Saul, watch this. This is very important. Your servant has been keeping his father's sheep, and when a lion or a bear came and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it, I struck it, and rescued the sheep from its mouth. When it turned on me, I seized it by its hair, struck it, and killed it. Can you imagine that? This is crazy. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. This uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them because he has defied the armies of the living God. Watch this. Watch where David's confidence comes from. Verse 37. The Lord, everybody say it with me, the Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine. David says, I did it, but it was the Lord who helped me with it. It was the Lord who was doing the fighting through me. So Saul says to David, go and the Lord be with you. And then Saul dressed David in his own tunic, and he put a coat of armor on him and a bronze helmet on his head. And David fastened on the sword over the tunic and tried walking around, but he was not used to them. I cannot go in these, he said to Saul, because I am not used to them. So he took them off. So act like you're putting like the armor on there, just kind of, okay, putting the armor. And then David, you're like, no, this ain't gonna work.
Yeah, this isn't gonna work.
Okay. Well, we're really milking it now. I like this. Then he took his staff in his hand, chose 5 smooth stones from the stream, put them in his pouch of his shepherd's bag, and went with his sling in his hand, and he approached the Philistine. So you start walking just a little bit right there. Not running yet. Okay, you're just approaching. Okay. Meanwhile, the Philistine, with his shield bearer in front of him, kept coming closer to David. So take one step, because that's enough for you. All right, there we go, one step. And he kept coming closer to David. He looked David over and saw that he was little more than a boy, glowing with health and handsome, and he despised him. He said to David, am I a dog that you have come at me with sticks? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. Come here, he said, and I'll give your flesh to the birds and the wild animals. Sam, you look at him and say, I'm gonna mess you up.
I'm gonna mess you up.
David said to the Philistine, you come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and I'll strike you down, and I'll cut off your head. This very day I will give the carcasses of the Philistine army to the birds and the wild animals. The whole world will know that there is a God in Israel, and all those gathered here will know that it is not by sword or spear that the Lord saves, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give all of you into our hands. So Titus, you look at him and say, God's got this.
God's got this.
Yeah. As the Philistine moves closer to attack him, David ran quickly, so kind of act like you're running, David, right? And then grab your slingshot. Reaching into his bag, he took out a stone and slung it and struck the Philistine on the forehead, and the stone sank into the forehead, and he fell face down on the ground. So David triumphed over him, and then with a sling and without a sword, then David ran, stood over him. He took hold of the Philistine's sword and killed him. And he cut off his head with the sword. And when the Philistines saw that their hero was dead, they turned and ran. Give it up for them, everybody. Good job. Good job. Thank you, guys. Thank you. That went so much better than I even thought it was going to go. That was amazing. Okay. So what is the story? What is the story about? Is this about, again, small guy versus big guy, or slingshot versus sword, or overwhelming odds versus the underdog? No, this is about confidence. That's what this is. Not arrogance, not cockiness, but confidence. What do you do when you find yourself in those situations that are overwhelming and you don't know what to do, and you're outmatched, you're outgunned? You will be destroyed, all things being equal. What do? You put your confidence in God no matter what. Confidence in God no matter what. And what we see here in this passage, and I just want to break this down, and then we're going to look to the Lord and pray a little bit. But we see three types of confidence. We see a misplaced confidence in Goliath. We see a lost confidence in Saul. And then we see a godly confidence in the anointed, but yet not King David. And so what I want to do is I want to break this down and hopefully maybe look at our own lives, see if we've got some misplaced confidence, maybe see if we've got some lost confidence, and then hopefully put our confidence back where it belongs, solely in the Lord. All right, before we do, I want you to find three people next to you and say, hey, what you really need is confidence in God. Come on, find three people and just tell them that what you need is confidence in God. First thing is a misplaced confidence. Goliath. Goliath is confident because of what he has. This is your typical bully, right? Goliath he's the typical bully. I mean, you got to think about like classic bully characters from throughout history. You got to think about Biff from Back to the Future, or Johnny from Karate Kid, or Regina from Mean Girls. These are the people we love to hate because they're bullies. But here's the thing about Goliath. He's not just a bully, he's a champion. So he is a champion. He's the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. He is undefeated. And he's got the latest gear too. Verse 5, we didn't look at this, but it says he had a bronze helmet on his head and wore a coat of scale armor of bronze weighing 5,000 shekels. On his legs, he wore bronze greaves, and a bronze javelin was slung on his back. Most people just went out there, maybe have a little leather, like helping cover and protect, but he had metal everywhere. 126 pounds of metal. The dude was big, he was a champion, and he was covered. He had the latest tech. His weapons were strong and big, and they were the best. And up to this point, Goliath was undefeated. You could say he was unbeatable. At least that's what the Israelites thought. And it's what Goliath thought too. He's always won. He was probably always the tallest kid in his class. He was probably always the strongest kid. He got picked first at recess. He was the captain of his football team. He's always been the strongest. He's always been the best. All he's ever known is victory because of how great he is, and his confidence is in himself. And that's why he loses. I just want us to think about this. Goliath loses not because a slingshot is better than a sword. He loses because he's confident in himself. And this gives us just such a lesson for us on where to put our confidence. You know, if you want to look at like today, Goliath is the person who trusts in themselves. Goliath is the person who trusts in their intellect. Goliath is the person who trusts in their retirement portfolio, their income, their degree, their education, their track record of good decision making, their work ethic. See, we can all fall into Goliath traps if we're not careful, can't we? Be like, oh no, I've done this before. Have you ever thought this? You face something that's a little bit overwhelming. You face something that's a little daunting that you haven't experienced maybe, or it's just something that is overwhelming. You're like, man, you know what? I've done stuff like this before. I'm gonna get up and I've got this and I'm gonna go out there. It's easy, no matter how tall you are or are not, to approach a situation that is overwhelming and walk out with confidence if you're looking at what you have and you have a good track record. But see, the confidence, if it's in ourselves, will lead to our downfall. If you're trusting in yourself, you will be disappointed. And that's why it is misplaced. And let me just say, this is a mindset that pervades our society, isn't it? It's like, oh yeah, just trust yourself. Look down deep within. Just make it happen. If it's to be, it's up to me. You do what you need to do, but here's the thing about that, and this is why it's truly tragic. When we approach life like that, we miss out on God. When we approach life on, I'm gonna figure this out, I'm gonna tackle this thing. Yeah, I know we've got ourselves in a difficult situation, but I'm gonna dig my way out of this. When we do that, we miss out on the miraculous. We miss out on an opportunity to put our confidence in the Lord and see God come through for us. See, Goliath, he misses out on understanding that God is at work and that God could do something and God wants to do something. His confidence is misplaced because it is in himself, and he never sees God. He never sees God. This is the person who's constantly trusting in themselves. They never see God come through for them. They never see how God is always working. They never see that God has arranged everything in this world to be as it is. The sunset, they never give God credit for it. They never give God credit for the blessings that they have. And they miss out on God. Goliath loses, not because he isn't strong, and not because he isn't capable. It's because his confidence is in himself. That leads me to the second confidence, and that's the lost confidence that Saul has. Saul isn't confident because of what he doesn't have. So Goliath is confident because of what he does have, and Saul is confident or isn't confident because of what he doesn't have. You see Goliath being the bully, and again, where is Saul? Verse 11, on hearing the Philistines' words, Saul and all the Israelites were dismayed and terrified. And look how he talks to David. You're not able to go against this Philistine and fight him. You're only a young man, and he's been a warrior from his youth. Here's the thing about Saul. He sees what he has in the natural, and as a result, he's dominated by fear. I think this is really important because Saul's not a wimp. In fact, Saul is a warrior who has won lots of battles. Saul is a realist. Saul knows what he's up against. Saul has won some battles, but he's never faced somebody like that. Here is the problem for the realist. Some of you, I know you're realists out there. In fact, let me just add a little survey. How many are the dreamers at the 8:30 service? Come on, you like to dream. You have lots of faith in spades. Probably more at the 11:30 service. They like to sleep in. But I bet the 8:30's got some realists. How many realists do we have at the 8:30 service today? Yeah. You size situations up. You know what it's gonna take. You accurately estimate it. You count the cost. You measure 3 times before you cut once. Come on, somebody. See, the realist isn't dumb. Saul knows what he's up against. Saul knows what he's facing. Saul knows that he's outmanned, he's outgunned, he's outmatched. He is not going to win against Goliath 100 times out of 100. He knows he can't do this. He knows this is impossible. That guy is gonna mess him up. But see, here's the other thing about realists. When they lose their confidence, it's also misplaced in a way. They're also placing it in themselves. They're only placing it in what they do see in the natural. And they're also missing the opportunity for God to do the miraculous. See, Saul wasn't wrong in his assessment. He was just wrong in his conclusion. Because he thought that, where I am right now is where I will always be, and there's no getting out of this. And let me just say, that's where the enemy loves to keep us. That's where the enemy wants. And what does Saul do? He's frozen, he's dismayed, he's terrified. You have a misplaced confidence in Goliath, you have a lost confidence in Saul, but you have a godly confidence in David. David is confident because of who his God is. He's confident because of who his God is. He believes in his heart that God is good and that God does good, and that no matter how difficult or terrible this situation looks, God can do it because God can do anything. David believes this. And you see it when he talks to Saul. Remember verse 37? The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine. And then we see it when he talks to Goliath. David said, you come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty. David knew who his God was, and he knew that God was with him. You know, there's a part, we didn't take a lot of time to look at it, but David goes and gets some stones from the stream, 5 of them to be exact. And I bet that as David is moving towards Goliath, as we talked about last week, he spent so much time with the Lord. He's pulling on all of that time that he spent, the perspective that he has, the Psalms that maybe he has written. And he's reminding himself who his God is. So he's picking up the stones, he's moving towards Goliath. Maybe he says something like Psalm 23 says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Maybe he's starting to swing the slingshot. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? I'm sure he probably thought something like Psalm 118 that says, the Lord is on my side. I will not fear. What can man do to me? I bet he's saying, I've got God. And because I've got God, I've got all I need, because the battle isn't mine, it is the lords. It's a godly confidence. It's not arrogance. It's not cockiness. It's a rootedness that's centered in God. David says, I believe that God can help me, and I believe that he will. David wins not because he's faster, not because he's more agile, not because a slingshot is better than a sword, but because his trust is in the Lord and God helps him. The question is, how do we get there? How can we put ourselves in that spot continually? I believe there's a secret found a little bit later in David's story. It shows us a pattern. We talked about it last week, but I want to look at this verse. 1 Samuel 30, verse 6. David was greatly distressed. See, to overcome victory doesn't mean that you're never worried. To have overwhelming victory doesn't mean that you're never discouraged, that you don't feel the thing that you're going through. But watch this. But David found strength in the Lord his God. How did David do that? He spent time with God because he had spent so much time, as we talked about last week, so much time tending sheep. It looked mindless. It looked so meaningless, but he was redeeming meaningless moments by spending time with God, and he was developing a strength so that when he would face something that was so much bigger than him, he walked into it with a godly confidence and said, I will not be dominated by that thing because I know my God, and my God is greater. There is no substitute. If you want to have great faith, if you want to be able to look at obstacles and take them down with a godly confidence, it's only going to happen when you spend time putting your trust in God. Every day, throughout the day, spending time with the Lord, saying, God, I'm trusting you. God, I'm going through these Psalms, just putting them in your heart. I mean, these are so powerful. So that when you face that overwhelming situation, you're going to do it with victory. Because you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that God has got this. Because God is greater than this. Amen? Will you stand with me all across this place? I want to take a minute to ask the worship team to come. I'm going to ask our prayer team to come. I know some of you today, some of you, this is a word for you that you're going to need to tuck away for when you're facing it. And then some of you, you're facing it right now. You're facing that overwhelming situation. You're going through the valley of the shadow of death, and you need God just to give you a great godly confidence, and it's going to be found when we put our trust in him. I want to read a verse to you as we get ready to pray, and as we get ready to worship. If you need prayer, I want to invite you to come down. We're going to sing. We're just going to take a moment and put our faith in the Lord together as a church. But let me just say this. Isaiah 40, verse 28 says this, do you not know, have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, in his understanding no one can fathom. God's better, God's greater, God's limitless. It's clear. Verse 29, he gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and will not faint. Where is your confidence? I want to encourage all of us today to say, God, our confidence is in you.